Hello, ladies and gentlemen, on the Facebook and our website and eFair, SME eFair for today. Thank you for joining us again. And this is a session number 11. As for the past one day, yesterday and today, actually, we have a line out of speakers who share with us about the different topic. And of course, now this session 11 is the topic about the new normal that will be adopted by different industries. So today we are very fortunate to have speakers to share with us on the startup part and also the education part. And for those who are actually new to our event today or on our Facebook, that because your friend shared this webinar to you, you can please feel free to join us because today we have SME eFair ongoing right now. So you can type in smeefair.com.my to join us, register as a visitors, and then you can visit our virtual booth online. So nowadays is talking about the new normal, everyone doing the things differently. Even like the SME eFair, previously we do it on a physical basis. We have to rent a hall and do it online, do it physically. But now we can do it online, and then everyone can actually join in. And the best part of it is everyone can join. Not only in the KL, if we organize in KL, only KL people can join. But now we can have the whole Malaysia, including Sabah, Sarawak, and as I know that. There are some audience actually from overseas. Like just now we have overseas speakers, and yesterday we also have overseas speakers, more than 6 countries who are joining us. So this is a very good session for us to have communicate with each other. Okay, let us not further. Let us go into the topic for today. So it is about the time for the SME as a startups to go for the business transformation. Some of the startup actually they are actually focusing on the technology and also the digitalization. So to disrupt the market with their own technology. So we understand that this is the efforts that people want to build their business further through the innovation. And especially during this challenging time, a lot of things we do it differently. For example, just now we have one panelist actually talking about this. His some of the homemaker, they actually doing that like the ice cream at home or durian cake at home or maybe nyonya cake at home. Now they also embrace this kind of technology transformation. But of course, that one is the homemaker. But today, this topic we would like to understand more from the startup perspective and from the education perspective. There is a joke saying that before the MCO, when we have a mask, we go to the bank, people feel very scared. But nowadays, if let's say you don't wear a mask, you go to the bank, people feel very scared as well. So you see that things keep on changing. Even the startup also, you will see that there's a few things that we might want to take into consideration. So for the introduction of a speaker today, we have two speakers. The first speaker is Mr. Greg. Unfortunately, he due to some reason he cannot actually attend this conference, but he already pre-recorded a video clip to share with you about this topic. And Mr. Greg, an introduction of the company he's founded. He founded the Global Services in Education, which is a world-renowned international education business consultancy firm. He utilized their expertise in all the matters relating to the day-to-day operation, curriculum, and consultancy. The GSE are actually able to provide the superior management and the related service to the schools, directors, owners, boards, and administrations. And we want to hear from him about what is the uniqueness and what is the new normal from him to actually to share on this education. So let us play his video on his sharing. So Hawa, please. Hawa, are you there? I think there's no sound. Hawa, can you check? Okay, I think there's some problem on there's a technical issue. Maybe we start with Mr. Rajan first. Later we'll try to figure out how to play the video. So okay, Mr. Rajan. So let us come to you, and also a short introduction for the Mr. Rajan as well. And Mr. Rajan, Dorairaj is the senior manager of the partnership of Malaysia Global Innovation and Creativity Center, which we in short we call it as a MAGIC. So Mr. Rajan demonstrated the history of working in the information technology and the service industry. He's skilled in the business planning and also the management, and also introduction for the MAGIC. MAGIC, as its name say, is the Midas touch to many startups in Malaysia. And MAGIC discover and empowers technology startups and the social innovators through the creativity, innovation, and technology adoption, and develops a vibrant and sustainable entrepreneurship ecosystem in Malaysia. Actually, since that 2014, Magic already provided their community of startups, inventors, and ecosystem players with the capacity of building capacity building programs and markets and funding opportunities to the more than 100,000 inspiring and seasoned entrepreneurs, all with an overall value creation of 1.9 billion. So it's a very huge contribution to the startup community in Malaysia, especially when we want to build up the healthy startup landscape in Malaysia. We really need the MAGIC to actually help us in terms of the funding, in terms of the guiding as well. So Mr. Rajan, I would like to invite you to share a little bit on the topic for today. The topic is navigating the new normal for the startups in the Asia Pacific region. Maybe you can share a little bit more on what you foresee and what we can embrace for the coming years. Mr. Rajan,
Okay,
over to you.
Thank you very much, Roy, for that kind introduction. I am the head of partnerships in MAGIC, yeah, and I look into corporate partnerships, partnerships with SME and industry associations, as well as government stakeholders, where we try to work with the startup ecosystem and help them, connect these components, these stakeholders into the startup ecosystem to create value. Yeah, not only for the startups, but for also the corporates and the SMEs. So typically, that's what our department does. But on a whole, MAGIC itself is a capacity development organization for startups and social enterprises. So when we say capacity development, we look at the very early stage startups and social enterprises to help them, crystallize their ideation, okay, their ideas, and then put them through, certain capacity building programs like our MAGIC Bootcamp. We do have the GAP program, Global Accelerator Program, to name a few. So these programs basically equip the startups with the required skills, okay, and knowledge to scale their businesses. so that they can go to the next stage, say Series A, B, and C. And many of these startups that come through our doors over the last 5 years, they have done pretty well and moved into the Series A, B, C. Okay, and many have gone expanded their business overseas. So, as the advent of this COVID-19 problem back in Malaysia, especially when it came, somewhere around February, so many startups, okay, Magic did a survey, and we found out that many startups are not able to survive, okay, if there's this MCO, this lockdown, or rather movement control order, limited movements. With this kind of, I would say, restrictions, many startups will not even be able to survive for 6 months. Yeah, so that's when the government of Malaysia has actually noticed Magic's survey, okay, due to this COVID pandemic disruption, and decided to come up with programs, such as the Penjana program, okay, or Penjana initiative. And under Penjana, there are various programs to help startups, I would say, survive this disruption caused by the COVID pandemic, and also grow their business post COVID-19. So now Malaysia is still in that COVID, I would say, problem. Okay, however, we have managed to minimize it and flatten the curve to a certain extent. So, of course, the government has eased the MCO, and many are back to business. So, however, even when they are coming back to business, it is a lot of startups find it difficult to, I would say, service their existing clients or even gain future clients, because many of the clients itself has been disrupted, whether it's corporates or SMEs, or even if the startups have got a B2C solution like e-commerce or platform-based economy, okay, many have been affected. However, when you talk about the B2C, the impact to them is, I would say, slightly lesser compared to the B2B related startups, the ones that are servicing other businesses, because B2C being consumers, now many, because, we have this, work from home and all that kind of things, right? So many are actually, going online, towards e-commerce, okay, and I would say subscribing to the sharing economy platforms where food will be delivered to your homes, or even products and services. Yeah, so that particular angle of the startup business is kind of thriving, though it's been affected, but it is thriving more than what it was previously, because of this new norm, right? They call it, where you have the social distancing, you don't want to get into crowded places. So a lot of venture capitalists, even angel investors, are looking at e-commerce and platform-based economy businesses. But of course, this market space is quite crowded. There are a lot of them who are developing this kind of applications and solutions to go into this space. However, because of the competition, not only in Malaysia, but you got regional competition and global competition. So it is because when you talk about e-commerce platform economy, you're opening up to the global market space already, right? Especially when you talk about e-commerce. So a lot of, I would say, players will come into the ring, and if those startups, do not have, deep pockets, especially when you talk about marketing, right? Marketing and outreach, customer acquisition, then that's where the startups will have a big challenge to actually scale up the business or take advantage of this. I would say post-COVID phenomenon where e-commerce and sharing economy, platform-based economy, has gained more interest. So developing the product, the platform, the e-commerce, or even getting products online is fine. But the outreach, that's where you do a lot of marketing, whether it's online marketing or offline marketing, the cost is there. And if you do not have enough funds for it, then you will have a big challenge to reaching to the consumer base, which is very much some of them might not have loyalty, but they look at the especially when you talk about e-commerce, right? The last mile delivery plays a big role. Even your layout of your marketplace, the kind of products that you offered, plays a big role in it. The whole customer experience also, you see, especially when it comes to payment, and then what do you call that? Say the warranty angle of it, product replacement, all that plays a big role in it. However, when it comes about to getting the word out that you've got this fantastic e-commerce marketplace and all that, it's all about marketing and uh, promotion, publicity and promoting it right to the consumer base. So the government came up with, of course, this Penjana program, Penjana initiative, for which Magic, and under Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, Magic, along with MTDC, Cradle, Future Rise, and NIMOS, we came up with this initiative called NTIS, National Technology Innovation Sandbox. So, and this sandbox is about to be launched next Wednesday. However, there is when you talk about NTIS, okay, the main objective is to help new technologies, right, cutting edge technologies, deep tech, to get into the sandbox and I would say commercialize commercialization ready products to get into the sandbox and to work with regulators if you've got regulatory issues, such as if you're in drone tech, especially, and certain like fintech and all that, where you can work with regulators to help, get your product accepted by these regulators. And the NTIS main role is to help facilitate all this work between the startups and the relevant regulators. Plus, you are given a grant to do a pilot. For a single site pilot is about 250K. Doubles, two sites pilot in two locations, maximum out of it's 500K maximum grant. Yeah, and then you got a 4 million ringgit grant and a 15 million, 4 million grant. What do you call that? Is for you to also help commercialize to the next stage also after doing a pilot MVP. So that's 4 million is that post, and then you've got a 15 million grant, especially for corporates who come in on a matching grant basis together with for the government also to match the grant with the corporate. So I would say that NTIS is a big agenda for us to get our deep tech startups, okay, to get into the sandbox, get accepted by the regulators, and improve, get accepted by government in terms of procurement, so that they can break into government procurement, especially. So where government can actually, look at that startup which is accepted, which is approved by the NTIS, and look at startups as a source of products and solutions. Yeah, when it comes to government procurement. So then there's also another grant for social enterprises called the SIM grant, Social Innovation Matching Grant, up to 10 million. The pool of grant is 10 million ringgit, but the matching grant is up to 500,000 ringgit per social enterprise, where they can apply for this particular grant, and it will be launched somewhere in September. Yeah, so these are the two initiatives when we talk about the startup and the social enterprise space, where government is playing a big role in pushing, in helping them grow. But that is basically, the short term under this Penjana initiative. But of course, in long term space, there is Magic, there is MTDC, there is Cradle and Mimos to actually help startups to grow their business. Yeah, whether in terms of capacity development or technology adoption, digital adoption, etc. Yeah, so that is what we are looking now at the post-COVID new normal for startups. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rajan. And actually, for current situation that lots of startups are not only they want to actually start up with new ideas, they also actually want to have some helps from the not only the governments, maybe from the some agencies and some of the organization as well. So actually, Magic actually plays a very important role in this. So my next question is for about the challenges. What are the common challenges that a startup face during this COVID-19, especially COVID-19, and what is the available solution for to overcome these challenges?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, many of the startups are facing issues when it comes to cash flow, right, and growing their business. So because a lot of their clients, especially on the B2B startups with the B2B solutions products, many of their clients have reduced their procurement. So a lot of startups, are unable to actually deploy their projects, with the clients, and of course, get paid for it. So cash flow is an issue. So many of the startups have got issues retaining their employees, right, paying salaries and all that. So of course, the moratorium and all that given by the banks, that was one helpful area, not only for startups but for employees, for wage earners, and also for business people also. So so retaining employees is one thing, and then of course, if the startup has got I would say in a product development stage, right? A lot of challenges in raising funds also, because a lot of VCs and angels also have become a bit more cautious, on investing into startups in this COVID period, because they also has got to maintain their business, but they have also invested in startups, like I mentioned, in the e-commerce space and platform-based economy, because looking at the new normal, a lot of people are buying online, right? So the funding has moved towards that area, where there's scalability in this sort of business, e-commerce and platform economy. But when you talk about the B2B business, a lot of them have been affected. Even those with foreign clients, now you can't travel overseas because borders are closed. Even if you can travel, also you're quarantined for quite a while. So it's a lot of startups need to do a cost benefit analysis, whether they want to actually travel and go overseas and service their clients, or probably explore the online angle, doing video conferences with your clients, keeping in touch with them. Of course, when deploying projects, if you don't have presence in a particular country, even say like in Indonesia or Philippines, and you want to deploy projects physically, that is a very big challenge for a lot of startups, unless you can find ways to do it online, right? So I would say that the cash flow is a big challenge for many startups, and of course, unable to service their clients, even though they win deals. Especially when you talk about foreign clients, you're unable to deploy your project. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the insightful sharing. And further from these questions just now we mentioned is the challenges, not only for the cash flow, maybe also sometimes these small startups, because we consider it small because they are startup, not necessarily because the entrepreneurs are new. They might have already have quite experience in their field before they start up this company. But what if those company actually start up by very new youngsters, but they need some bridging from someone who help them to bridge to the big players? For example, they need some technologies provided to help them. So do this Magic actually help them in terms of bridging them with those giants, the technology provider?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we do have various partnerships, with a lot of MNCs and all that, and we, if the startup comes through our program, our capacity building programs, like I mentioned, the boot camps, the Gap, and all that. So if they come to our programs, they become our alumni. So our alumni is about 1,500 startups. 1,200 startups in our alumni. About 500 plus are active. Yeah, and and we basically connect, if just 500 plus startups connect, come to us for connection with corporates or to government agencies and all that, we are glad to connect them to these agencies and corporates, potential buyers. But we would like to, we are a bit more biased towards our alumni. So for which, because startups that do not come through our programs, or any of our programs, we've got multiple programs, so we just want to build that familiarity with the startup. Only then we can actually recommend the startup for connecting them to other partners, because Magic also has got to maintain a reputation. We can't connect a startup which fly by night, and then our reputation will be affected. So we have to actually get the startup to come through some programs, very even our simple 2-day programs, kind of design thinking or a design sprint programs that we have. We consider them our alumni because we have their database, then we are familiar, we get to know them, we do a portfolio management of that particular startup. Okay, we analyze the portfolio of that particular startup, so we get familiar with them. Then we can know when the startup comes to us and say, okay, I am still developing my product. Okay, fantastic idea. Can you connect me to Microsoft, or can you connect me to IBM or something like that? Then we can help connect. You see, so it's all about being familiar with the startup. Then we can do a connection. Yeah. So typically we try to assist startups which have product, and when you talk about I would say corporate innovation, recommending startups to corporates to deploy projects, solutions. Those startups are a bit more of the mature startups which has got products, which has got traction. They've already commercialized their product, they got traction. Then we look at their track record, we look at what are the projects that have been deployed. So we have got more confident in recommending them to clients or corporates or agencies, government agencies that require those products. Yeah, but for the earlier stage startups which are still in product development stage and all that, it's preferable for them to come to our programs, any of our programs. We get to know them and then see if they want to connect to any of the other partners, technology partners and all that, like you mentioned, to further develop their products. Then we can do that.
Okay, thank you. And for the other than this digitalization and the startups itself, do you see that any area that in our community of a startup which lack of? For example, like the now most of the startup is using the technology to help them, but I believe that there's some area that actually the startups are not really focusing on. For example, maybe something like the OMO or the omni-channel, which is not that strong at the moment. So do you have some idea of this, or maybe some other examples?
Okay, yeah. So many of our startups in Malaysia, okay, going into I would say the common, or rather the crowded space of technology, right? Even though at this time post COVID and all that, e-commerce, platform-based economy is in demand. However, commercializing it and scaling it up, it can be a challenge. So my advice is for startups to go towards the deep technology if they can, yeah, or the emerging technologies, like data analytics, cybersecurity, blockchain, AI, AR, you see, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, so virtual reality. So use those kind of technologies to enhance your product, big data analytics to enhance your products and all that, and drone technology. So go into those space to provide analytics, AR based solutions, because something which industry can use, various industries, whether it's plantation, manufacturing, because healthcare, because these sectors, these traditional sectors, are in need to adopt digital to help them scale their business and of course survive the disruption, right, which is the digital disruption which is coming, you see, because it's a global phenomenon that digital disruption is happening. and a lot of traditional businesses need to pivot and adopt, digital to help them, sustain and grow their business, or even compete with global competition, right? So a lot of this, corporates and SMEs who are in the traditional businesses, they are looking for affordable local solutions which with a track record, right? So if our startups can go into that space and provide this sort of solutions, okay, or develop this kind of solutions, then I'm sure the market is so huge, especially locally, for the startups to sell to our local buyers, right? Then when you start selling to your local buyers, at affordable pricing, then they can actually, gain more revenue and grow their business. Our startups, then they can look at regional, because if you can't sell locally and then suddenly you go regional, they will start asking you, who are your clients in Malaysia and all that. Then if you can't say that you are at least about a few clients in Malaysia, then there is no credibility if you go overseas and try to sell. So, and the government has actually done a lot of initiatives, especially the last 2 years when it comes to Industry 4.0, where they launched this Industry Forward initiative for manufacturers that are digital, right? Or Industry 4.0 solutions. So, the awareness is there. The SMEs, the manufacturers, the service providers, they're all there to actually, are ready to adopt, right? Local solutions which are affordable. So I believe that our startup should take advantage of that and go into that space, because the government is also providing funding in this space. Our sister agency like Cradle, they've got two funds for deep tech. One is 500,000, the other one is 2 million. So you can come up with tangible products, that can address these pain points by these various sectors such as agriculture, plantation, manufacturing, healthcare, of course, FSI, and all these various sectors. Then of course you stand a chance to actually, get a grant from the government. Even under this Panjana initiative, also the NTIS, mainly the funding is for technology which are deep tech, and what do you call that, an emerging technology, you see, because these are the technologies which are going to spur further R&D and development, right, and further innovation when it comes to, I would say, scaling up a particular business, right? So that's my, I would say, my advice to startups. If you can look into this space, okay, and get probably can come into Magic, because we've got a drone tech bootcamp happening next month. If you're going into drone technology, you can apply to our drone tech bootcamp. We did have a deep tech bootcamp, which just ended recently. It ran through the whole month of August. Yeah, deep tech bootcamp. So drone tech is coming up in September. So if any of you are interested in the drone tech, okay, you can come and sign up for our drone tech bootcamp, which is in our website, Magic website. Yeah, so you can apply to it. So we are looking into that space, you see, because now we are under the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. We want a lot more of our young, university graduates, university students, even young business, young professionals, right, who want to embark into their own business, okay, to go into this kind of technology space, right? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, awesome. I think this is a very initiative also from the Magic, and also I understand that there is one they call as GAP solutions. So this is a different under different umbrella, or is actually the same initiative? Just now the GAP, the virtual. Yes, virtual
global accelerator program. Global accelerator program has been running for the last 6 years. Yeah,
Okay.
this is about sixth cohort. Initially, it was known as Malaysia Accelerator Program from 2014 to 2016. Then 2015 to 2017. Then 2018, 2019, and now this year is known as GAP, Global Accelerator Program. So this program, we just closed the selection, and out of about 160 over applications globally, we only selected about 40. 40 startups, Malaysian and foreign startups, in a 70-30% ratio, to go through our 3 months Global Accelerator program. This GAP program is mainly for startups which already have products which have commercialized. That means they've already got traction, some clients. So when you get into GAP, GAP will help them in the 3 months not only raise funding, but will also connect them to potential buyers, customers, and also help them post the GAP. We'll take them even overseas, right, to connect them to our overseas partners and to access clients overseas, especially regionally in Southeast Asia. So this particular program GAP is to help the startup scale up in that short period of 3 months. Okay, it's mainly it's hybrid, blended, which is basically virtual and physical. So physical mainly for the local startups who are based in Malaysia, but of course there will be also some virtual for them locals. And for the foreign startups, it's mainly virtual, right? So it's blended, okay. And in the 3 months, we put them through a vigorous, 5-day program, 5-day sort of a training, okay, or coaching and mentoring, okay, various areas in funding, in pitching, in I would say product development. Some of them might even pivot halfway through, right, and develop go into a different sort of a product line. So it is quite I would say a strenuous 3 months, okay, of GAP, which ends in a demo day in December, early December, where they'll be pitching to potential investors to raise funds to actually scale up their business and accelerate. So it's quite a comprehensive program, and it will basically stretch the startup for that 3 months, and help them scale their business.
Just now you say that is the GAP is already closed. So means that is the next opening, when will it be?
Will be next year, the second half of next year.
Second half of
probably,
next year.
June, probably June next year. We'll open up the application, right? May to June, around the period, and then after that, we'll close the application by end of July or around there. Then August, September, the selection process happens. Then September we kick off GAP.
Okay, so it's a very short period of time for them to apply. June onwards, they have to have an eye on the website of Magic, right?
Yeah, typically I would say May onwards, not June. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And also one thing which I always not curious, but always have a thought on this is because startups is always referred to those disruption to the traditional business, and but there's always some fine line between the looking skeptical on the rules, but at the same time they are bending it because they want to have in the name of a progress. So what do you have? What is your opinion on this?
Well, startups are meant to disrupt traditional businesses and complement them. Yeah. So because startups are supposed to be agile, innovative, right, and they are supposed to be lean, right. So that is the nature of startups. However, our Malaysian startups, we need them to to adopt more of this. I would say emerging tech or deep tech, so that they can really do real disruption. And when they do disruption to the traditional businesses, the traditional businesses will tend to embrace the startups, work, collaborate with them, and adopt whatever the startup is doing, so that they can also scale, survive, and also scale up their business, right? So having said that, startups DNA is about being agile and lean, and being constantly innovative. So that is what the value of that startup. And with that value, we can create this disruption on a positive way, so that our traditional businesses will actually collaborate further with the startups and take their businesses forward, because it's a win-win situation. The startup can collaborate and sell their product to the traditional business, whether it's SME or corporate, and the SME can actually adopt this new technology, affordable, I would say pricing, okay, and and it's not a vendor-customer relationship, because we're talking about corporate innovation, SME innovation. So it's more of a partnership, right? So it's more of a partnership between, two parties, instead of vendor customer. I sell you and that's it, right? So we want that sort of that innovation to be adopted gradually by the traditional business, so that the traditional business can understand what is required to adopt digital and take their business to the next level. So we need more of this, our startups, to do that, right? To go into the disruptive sort of a business model. Okay, whether the technology is disruptive or business model disruption, we need our startups to go into that space.
Okay, thank you. So is there any question from the floor, or maybe Hawa can check? As we see that actually the startup itself is a very interesting topic. We have to have more than 1 hour to cover everything. Of course, today we just need to focus on a few very important areas. So hopefully those startup friends on the line that can actually learn from today's session. Okay, now so we have one question: how digital transformation on the all levels can support those post COVID-19 world? I think it's
Okay,
more
how
digital.
on all levels can support the post COVID-19 world? Yeah, so digital transformation itself is a very vast, I would say, area or definition, right? Because it can be from the smallest, I would say, adoption, which is, say, you're not even an SME, you're MSME, okay, and then you are in the services sector, where you sell products from a shop, right? Say in a, what do you call it, in a particular touristy area. So for you to actually improve your customer experience, okay, to create that stickiness, because at the end of the day, selling product is one thing, but customer loyalty, to create a stickiness through customer service, right, providing a better service, I would say, will actually help you, retain customer and increase your revenue. So even the slightest the improvement in customer experience, such as digital payment, e-wallet, okay, I would say, will actually create that impact, what do you call that, towards the business of the MSME, and also the customer. Okay, for example, a lot of younger generation now have got e-wallets. So if you have e-wallets offering, okay, to as in the point connected to your point of sales, right, and you give and when they use the e-wallet, there are campaigns also, right, by the banks and all that. Okay, so they when they buy a product, they probably get a 5% or something like that rebate, okay, or money back kind of thing. So that itself, creates that stickiness, and they like to come to your place to actually, buy your product. So, that is the simplest form of digital transformation, and the easiest form, actually, customer experience through point of sales, right? Then you go to the next stage, which is the back end, okay, where you have got your stock or inventory and all that, and then what do you call it, you adopt digital to do a inventory count, or a inventory stock replenishment, which is a bit more difficult, but it's very much operational. Okay, investment is slightly higher, right, compared to the front end point of sales, using just adopting an e-wallet, using a payment gateway. Those kind of things are a bit more straightforward and easier to adopt, right? So when you talk about the services sector, these are the areas you can look at. So so you've got a front end, and then you've got the back end, right, which you can actually adopt various digital solutions at affordable prices. Then you of course got the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing sector, of course, is so vast, right? So you've got your vertical integration, between your customer experience to your operations at the back end, and then you got inventory inventory, at your warehouse also. So by adopting digital, okay, and especially by having IoT sort of technology, in your production line, okay, or IoT sort of technology adopted in your warehouse. So you can get real-time information, okay, about your products, okay, in a dashboard format, right? Because you got data analytics at the back end, okay, crunching all this data, and then it will show to you in a dashboard. So digital transformation is all about getting visibility, okay, of your business, okay, so that you can make a constructive decision, right? So that's digital transformation. Once that is achieved, then only you go into automation. That's where you start deploying, robotics and all that, especially when you talk about manufacturing. That's the second stage of it, is it? Automation. Then, finally, you can even, you can do, what do you call it? This artificial intelligence comes at the third stage, where, what do you call that? There is a lot of areas. Artificial intelligence can come at the digital transformation stage, but it can also go at the third stage after automation also, because artificial intelligence, can cut across various functions, so that you can actually, achieve higher productivity. You can reduce dependence on foreign labor, and that can also help you. Digital transformation can also help you. I would say pivot a new business model also, yeah, so that you can actually generate a separate income stream or revenue stream, you
All
see.
right.
So these are the three areas that you can impact.
Thank you very much, Rajan, for the very clear introduction on digital information. Okay, next we would like to play the video of Greg Parry. So Mr. Greg actually will talk about the transformation and also the new normal for the education industry. So the Hawa, please help us.
Hi, my name is Shanna Parry, and this is Greg Parry.
Hi.
We are the directors of Kingsgate International School, and we are so happy to be here with you today to talk to you a little bit about the future of education and all the things that we've been through in these past 6 months. So welcome to our webinar. I first want to take just a moment and talk about the enormous stress that the world has been under through this pandemic. It's been a challenging time for all of us, but we have to remember that it's also been a challenging time for our little ones, our students. And so we need to make sure that moving forward, we continue to make the best decisions for our children. And part of that decision process is realizing that it's very stressful for students to be in a classroom where they're not at the same level with other students. It's stressful to always be needing to catch up as a student. So this is where it's really important that we focus on it's easier to keep up than catch up. So we need to make sure as educators and as parents and as a community that we're doing what's best for all children to make sure that they're keeping up with their academics. Now today we're going to be introducing you to a student named Chloe. And Chloe, our fictitious student, is 12 years old now, which means in the year 2040 she's going to be 32 years old. And we want to talk about how we can prepare Chloe for a world not yet invented.
Yes, certainly. What happened very recently, unexpected to all of us, is that almost on a day, the pandemic hit and all of us had to change our lives completely, almost overnight. And the truth is, worldwide, some schools succeeded really, really well, and some schools failed. And really, I guess I want to talk a little briefly about what the difference was between those schools that did very well and those schools that struggled. I think one of the first things we noticed in different parts of the world was when there was strong adaptive management, schools really did well.
Absolutely.
I think one of the keys was having high quality teachers that were supported by management. I know our experience was to say to teachers, you're the very best at what you do. Here's some freedoms to make sure you deliver outcomes for kids. Teachers are generally, by default, passionate about caring for kids. And when management remove the obstacles and make sure teachers can get on and do a good job, that's when things happen really, really well. And I think that was the key that what I saw. Schools that did a great job had strong adaptive management, and high quality teachers were allowed to do what they're best at and get on with doing a great job, meeting the needs of children. The other thing I think that was important was relationships. This pandemic was about health, but we all needed to support each other. And I think in schools where there were strong relationships between the stakeholders, between parents and the teachers and management, things went very, very well. Parents didn't necessarily complain about the problem because they knew that they couldn't change the facts that the pandemic was changing people's lives. But the community pulled in together and worked very well together to make sure that they met the needs of children, children being put first. And I think that was the key difference.
Absolutely. So we know Chloe needs great teachers. We know she needs a good management system behind her. And we know that Chloe needs relationships, and not just Chloe's own relationships, but those relationships that her parents are modeling for her as well. Now, I mentioned earlier that we're preparing Chloe for a world not yet invented. And this is key because we don't know what Chloe's future jobs will be. Chances are the jobs that Chloe holds as an adult probably haven't been invented yet. So we need to make sure that we're preparing her to evaluate information. So she's constantly able to do that. What is true? What is right? What is good? What ideas can I take and make them better ideas? Because we want Chloe to be an innovator. We want her to be on the designing end of these jobs and these opportunities. So we need to teach her how to evaluate information, especially with an internet full of different stories. So we need to teach her to evaluate that information, but also take that true information and come up with better ideas. How can I keep this growing? How can I keep this going? We also need Chloe to have a strong value system. It's important that Chloe is honest and has integrity and is a kind person, a global citizen that cares about those around her. And Chloe needs to also understand that her existence affects people all around the world. And so that interconnectedness is really important for Chloe to understand.
Yes, certainly a lot of people keep saying via social media and different publications, they keep saying, well, the pandemic will change the way the world was always going to be forever. They believe that suddenly the pandemic will transform education as we know it. Well, I guess that's true, but to some degree, I would argue that we were always on a path of change. What happened though, the pandemic accelerated that pace of change. Some schools were ready and adapted quickly, but other ones are in catch-up mode, and that's a real shame for the children. But ultimately, these changes that we're currently facing, I think are always going to happen. It's just they're going to happen a lot faster. And I think Chloe needs to have a very positive, optimistic view of the world ahead. She can't be one of in the doldrums saying, oh, I don't like this change and I don't want to use this technology. She has to be excited about it. And the truth is, what an exciting time to be in education. I mean, it's changing fast, and the incredible opportunities for children to really adapt and learn effectively. So it really is a great time for us to progress into the future and think about wonderful things. So Chloe needs to be very positive about the future, see it as a bright, shiny opportunity. The other thing, though, she needs to have is a whole lot of skills that maybe previous generations didn't have. She needs to be able to filter information. She's going to get exposure to a lot more information than maybe former generations. So she needs to be critical of it. The brain is hardwired, in particular the amygdala responds to threats and negative things. So sadly, what we need to be cautious of is that as new information comes to us rapidly, it can be our default position, led by the amygdala, to be a bit negative and to be cautious and to be defensive. We need to counter that by having an optimistic approach where we go, okay, here's the challenge we're facing. Let's turn this crisis into opportunity. So that needs to be Chloe's mindset for sure. She needs to have exposure to digital technology and new information, but not what we might call digital obesity. How is she being fed? Is she being fed with positive things or just negative? So as parents and as educators, we need to make sure she has positive exposure to information and knowledge, and not just the negative ones as well.
And let me just jump in here. And if you think about Chloe's life here, Chloe is growing up in a generation that they know there's going to be change. You know, I'm 49 years old. And when I was growing up, I thought the world was going to be exactly as it was when I was a kid. Now, we both know that there's been tons of changes. I now have a computer in my pocket I call a phone, and I rarely use as a phone. So there are all those changes that we've seen. But Chloe's growing up in a world that she's just seen change. She's had a complete childhood of change and technology growing and getting smarter and, you know, really coming into our homes. So, you know, when we talk about digital obesity, we really have to make sure that Chloe is protected from all of the change, but embracing it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I need to remember though is that these things we don't learn these things by accident.
No.
We don't learn them from a textbook either, but we don't learn them by accident. They need to be explicitly taught and modeled. And families already do a great job of that at home. Families are the leaders of teaching children about character and values, but the school needs to be an extension of that as well. We often talk about schools having signature experiences. We walk into schools on a regular basis in different parts of the world, and you walk into a school and you just get a feel for what the school's like. Well, it's actually more to it than that. There's a set of behaviours or an environment or a climate or a culture that Chloe needs to be a part of that impacts her in a very positive way. So, I mean, you walk into a school sometimes and children might be looking to the ground or just walking past you or ignoring you. But think about those schools you've been in where the child smiles and says, "Hi, how are you?" to a stranger as they walk past. That happy, friendly personality. Think about the way the teachers interact with the children. Are they positive and uplifting, or are they very focused on just exams and just grades and you did get a good result or you didn't do so well in that exam? Or maybe something more uplifting like, "Gee, you're working really hard. Keep on working on that," motivating children. Again, this is the climate environment children need to live in. Both it's an extension of home, positive environment at home and a positive environment at school that encourage children to want to learn, to want to find out new things and respond well to some of the changes that are happening in the world at the time.
Yeah, and we want to make sure, just to build on your point, Greg, we want to make sure that Chloe knows how she learns. We want to make sure that Chloe knows, you know, what her learning looks like. What are her strengths? What are things that she needs to work on? We know Chloe is going to need to be a lifelong learner. So she really needs to understand her learning style and be able to communicate. This is how I learn best. This is how I process information. So this is going to be very important for Chloe to be able to evaluate her own learning, her own growth, setting goals for herself. These are things that she's going to have to do forever. And like you said, these are things that she doesn't learn on accident. They have to be taught with purpose.
And the thing is, I mean, we need to make sure that Chloe's not a victim of the future. She needs to have agency. She needs to have control over her own perspectives and on what the future's going to look like for her. So rather than be scared of it and say, "Oh, well, this has happened, therefore I have to do this," she needs to have a perspective. Well, because I know what the future holds, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to move in the direction rather than being a victim of it. She needs to talk passionately and be motivated and happy and smiling and excited about the future, not be a victim of the challenges or the crises that we face.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time for Chloe. And let us tell you about our Chloes here at Kingsgate International School. Our Chloes, as young as year one, are leading the student parent teacher conferences. They're able to talk about their learning. They're able to talk about their goal setting. They know what learning looks like and they know how they learn. So that's one of the most important things that we need to make sure students are doing. And they're doing it here at Kingsgate. And they're doing it under the direction of, I'll say it, some of the world's greatest teachers. Yep, I said it and I mean it. We have the greatest teachers here at Kingsgate. They're not only focused on the academics, which obviously is important, but they're focused on creating an environment that flourishes learners, that teaches them values, that teaches them to be lifelong learners, and teaches them to embrace technology.
Yeah, I must admit, I was blown away during the pandemic when I realised that all of the facilities were irrelevant.
Yeah.
All of the other things that we normally associate with schools were irrelevant. The only thing that was relevant was the connection between the teacher and the child and the parent. And this proved to me what's most important in schools. It's high quality teachers. They really make a difference. I know at Kingsgate we believe very strongly in having high academic achievement. The truth is you've got to get good grades in order to move into university, to have the skills to succeed in life. But more importantly, you need to be able to apply that information. So the classes here are very practical, very hands-on. We very much approach a Da Vinci concept of learning where we believe in blending together creativity, the sciences, mathematics, as well as traditional academics as well. It's a coming together of all those areas, because we know that in order for children to be critical thinkers in the future, to adapt to changing environments, it's not what you learn, it's learning how to learn and continue to be able to progress and learn along the way.
Absolutely. I like to call it, we let our students get messy with learning. They're in there with it and they're touching it and innovating and creating and designing. And it's exciting to see. And we welcome you to the Kingsgate campus to see all the great things that are happening here. We'd love to have you join us. And I'll throw in how cost effective our school is as well. Do you want to tell me about that, Greg?
Yeah, one thing that amazes me is when parents try to evaluate the quality of a school, they need to focus on the right things. I mean, why would you send your child to a very expensive school without knowing the quality of teachers that exist?
Yep.
I mean, our school is arguably 20 to 30% cheaper, less expensive than other schools with a lesser standard of teachers. Our teachers all come from the UK, US, Canada, Australia, fully qualified international.
Highest quality teacher.
So, I mean, that's really the key difference. So I challenge parents when they visit a school is, look at the facilities, look at the library, look at the swimming pool, those kind of things. But more importantly, find out who's teaching your child, because they're the ones that are going to make the most difference for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to answer any and all of your questions. We would love to see you, and we'd love to have you visit our school. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you at Kingsgate International School.
See you real soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, thank you for the Mr. Greg for the sharing, and we should end our webinar session here. Thank you so much. See you for the next session. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Rajan.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.